In the hills above Medellin, Colombia, a lone explorer enters the remains of Hacienda Nápoles, the sprawling estate built by narcotics trafficker Pablo Escobar in the early 1980s. Once a monument to wealth extracted through violence and corruption, the mansion now stands gutted and exposed, its walls marked by decades of looting, government raids, and deliberate destruction. The explorer moves through rooms stripped of their grandeur, past empty pools and crumbling colonnades, tracing the physical collapse of a criminal empire that once controlled billions of dollars and challenged the authority of the Colombian state. This exploration reveals not luxury, but the hollow architecture of power, built on blood. The explorer stands at the edge of a long driveway, overgrown with grass pushing through cracked asphalt. The air is thick and humid, carrying the weight of the tropical lowlands. Ahead, through a canopy of tangled trees and vines, the outline of a massive structure emerges, pale concrete walls streaked with water stains and black mold. The explorer begins walking forward, boots crunching on gravel and debris. The silence is absolute. No birds call, no wind moves through the leaves. The mansion waits, stripped of life, a ruin held together by memory and concrete. This is Hacienda Nápoles, the estate Pablo Escobar built at the height of his power, when the Medellin cartel controlled 80% of the cocaine smuggled into the United States. The explorer approaches the entrance, where iron gates hang broken from their hinges, twisted metal folded back as if torn open by force. Beyond the gates, a wide courtyard opens, littered with rubble and fallen palm fronds. The explorer steps through, entering the perimeter of what was once a private empire. The mansion itself rises 3 stories, a modernist structure of right angles and exposed concrete, designed not for elegance, but for scale. Wide balconies jut from the upper floors, their railings missing or bent downward, exposed rebar rusting in the open air. The explorer walks across the courtyard, passing a dry fountain choked with weeds, its ceramic tiles cracked and scattered across the ground. Every surface bears the marks of violence. Bullet holes pockmark the exterior walls and clusters, some grouped tightly as if from automatic fire, others isolated and deliberate. The explorer stops at the base of a wide staircase leading to the main entrance. The double doors are gone, leaving only an empty rectangular frame. Through it, darkness. The explorer climbs the stairs slowly, each step echoing faintly in the hollow interior. At the threshold, sunlight cuts sharply into the first room, illuminating walls stripped to bare concrete, the plaster torn away in jagged sections. The floor is covered in broken glass, fragments of tile, and crushed cans left by previous intruders. The explorer steps inside, and the temperature drops. The air smells of damp concrete and rot. Pablo Escobar purchased this land in 1978, long before the world knew his name. He was 29 years old, already wealthy from smuggling marijuana and stolen cars, already building the infrastructure that would make him the most powerful criminal in the Western Hemisphere. The property covered nearly 8 square miles of fertile lowland between Bogota and Medellin, a place remote enough to operate beyond government oversight, close enough to the city to project authority. Escobar envisioned Hacienda Nápoles as more than a home. It would be a statement, a private kingdom where he could entertain politicians, journalists, and families from the surrounding towns, offering access to swimming pools, a private zoo, and a fleet of vehicles. The mansion was the centerpiece, a structure designed to house dozens of guests, equipped with helipads, guest houses, and hidden compartments beneath the floors. Construction moved quickly, funded by cocaine profits that exceeded $100 million per year by 1982. The Explorer moves deeper into the main hall, and where a grand staircase once spiraled upward to the second floor. Now only the concrete skeleton remains, metal supports exposed like ribs, the wooden steps long since removed or burned. The Explorer places a hand on the railing, feeling the cold rust transfer to skin. By 1989, Escobar was one of the wealthiest men in the world, his fortune estimated at $30 billion. Hacienda Nápoles reflected that wealth in excess. The estate included a bullfighting ring, a motorcycle track, a soccer field, and a private airstrip where planes arrived nightly carrying shipments from processing labs hidden in the jungle. The mansion's interior was filled with imported furniture, Italian marble, crystal chandeliers, and paintings purchased from European auction houses. Escobar hosted parties that lasted for days, attended by actors, athletes, and local officials who accepted his money and protection. But beneath the spectacle, the estate functioned as a command center. Meetings were held in rooms designed for privacy, decisions made that dictated the flow of cocaine across continents, the elimination of rivals, the bribing of judges and police officers. The Explorer walks through what was once a dining room, now empty, except for a single overturned chair and the faint outline of where a long table once stood, marked by a cleaner rectangle of floor. The walls are covered in graffiti, layers of spray paint in red and black, names and dates left by visitors who came after the fall. The Explorer crosses into a side corridor, narrower and darker than the main hall. The ceiling is low, water-stained tiles hanging loose or missing entirely. At the far end, a doorway leads to a smaller room, windowless and suffocating. The Explorer enters slowly, using a flashlight to cut through the darkness. The beam reveals concrete walls, unmarked and smooth, and a floor sloping slightly toward a central drain. The air here is colder, stagnant. This was one of the hidden rooms, spaces built beneath the mansion's public face, designed for interrogation, storage, or concealment. The Explorer stands in the center of the room, turning slowly, the light revealing nothing but emptiness. No furniture, no markings, only the drain, a circular iron grate rusted shut, and the faint smell of mildew rising from the floor. The silence presses down, heavy and absolute. By 1991, the Colombian government had declared total war on the Medellin cartel. Escobar's empire was collapsing under the weight of military raids, assassinations, and the betrayal of former allies. Hacienda Nápoles became a target. Government forces raided the estate multiple times, seizing vehicles, weapons, and documents. Escobar himself fled, moving between safe houses in Medellin while his properties were looted by soldiers and local scavengers. The mansion was stripped methodically. Furniture was hauled away,
decades after the
Fixtures
fall.
were torn from the walls. Even the wiring was pulled from the ceilings, sold for scrap copper. The explorer climbs the skeletal staircase to the second floor, gripping the exposed rebar for balance. The steps creak under weight, concrete crumbling at the edges. At the top, a wide hallway stretches in both directions, lined with doorways that open into empty rooms. The explorer walks left, entering what was once a bedroom. The space is large, perhaps 20 feet across, with a single glassless window overlooking the courtyard below.
Just
The
the
floor
drain.
is littered with broken
Empty.
furniture, a metal bed frame twisted and half buried under rubble, a shattered mirror reflecting nothing but gray light. The explorer moves to the window,
Decades of
looking
corrosion.
out over the grounds where the ruins
Faint
of
mildew
guest
rising
houses
from
and
below.
service buildings scatter across the overgrown landscape. Escobar was killed on December 2nd, 1993, shot on a rooftop in Medellin by Colombian security forces. He was 44 years old. Within hours, the news spread across Colombia, and by the next morning, crowds had descended on Hacienda Nápoles, tearing
All right,
apart what
second
remained.
floor.
Doors were
Let's see what we
kicked
find
in.
here.
Walls were sledge-hammered open in search of hidden cash. The zoo animals were seized by the government or abandoned to wander the grounds. Over the following years, the mansion was gutted completely, reduced to a concrete shell. The explorer descends the staircase again, carefully, and exits through a side door that leads to the rear of the property. Outside, the landscape
houses were
opens into
here.
what was once a series of terraced gardens, now reclaimed by
Everything is
jungle.
overgrown.
Paths are barely visible beneath layers of decomposed leaves and creeping vines. The explorer follows one of these paths, walking toward a large rectangular
Right.
structure half
is
hidden
it.
by trees.
No turning
As the
back now.
explorer approaches, the structure reveals itself to be a swimming pool, Olympic-sized, its bottom cracked and filled with stagnant rainwater turned green. Concrete benches line one side, their surfaces etched with graffiti. The explorer walks along the edge of the pool, footsteps echoing faintly off the water. At the far end, a diving platform
The water is
rises
stagnant,
3 meters above
and
the
the benches
surface,
are covered in
its
paths.
ladder rusted through,
need to proceed
each rung
carefully.
bent or missing. Beyond the pool, the explorer finds the remains of the private zoo. Cages made of iron bars stand empty, their doors
it.
open or torn
Platform
from
level
hinges.
4.
One enclosure
Look
is
for the
large
anchor
enough to
points.
have housed elephants, its floor covered
The
in
ladder's
packed
completely
dirt and
rusted
scattered
through.
bones,
The rungs
bleached
are
white
missing.
by sun and rain.
Structural
Another
failure.
cage, smaller and reinforced with concrete walls, was built for a hippopotamus, one of several Escobar imported from Africa in the 1980s. The explorer stands at the entrance to this enclosure, looking in at the shallow pond, now dry and cracked,
Evidence of abandonment.
weeds growing through the fissures. The
been
hippos
years.
escaped after Escobar's death,
This is it.
and their
Level 3
descendants still live in the
Nothing is
nearby
getting out of here.
rivers, an invasive
It's completely
species
dry. There's no sign
that
of water
has
left.
multiplied beyond control. The explorer turns away from the
Reports were
enclosure
accurate.
and walks back
Nothing
toward
but
the
history in
mansion,
weeds now.
passing through
How
a
long's it been
grove
like
of
this?
mango trees
long.
heavy with unpicked fruit rotting on the branches. Inside the mansion again, the explorer climbs to the 3rd floor, where the damage is more severe. The roof has partially collapsed, sections of concrete slab fallen inward, exposing the sky. Rain has entered freely for decades, soaking the walls and floors, turning the
The
interior
damage is worse
into
up
a
here.
vertical
Gotta be
swamp.
careful.
Moss grows in thick patches across the ceiling. The explorer steps
structure is
carefully around the
unstable.
debris,
I need to
entering a
secure
room
this
at the
area
far
before
end of the
proceeding.
hallway. This was Escobar's private office, the place where he conducted business away from the public rooms below. The space is small, perhaps 12 feet square, with a single window facing west. The walls are bare concrete, marked by water
do this.
stains that run from ceiling to floor
Are you
in
sure
dark
this is the right
vertical
way?
streaks. The explorer crosses to the window
damage goes all
and
the way
looks
up.
out over the
It's been like
estate.
this for years.
From this height, the full scale of
Only one way to
Hacienda
find out.
Nápoles becomes visible. The mansion sits at the center of a clearing surrounded by hundreds of acres of overgrown jungle. In the distance, the remains of the airstrip are barely visible, a long strip of cracked pavement disappearing into the trees. Closer, the ruins of guest houses and service buildings dot the landscape, their roofs caved in, walls leaning at angles. The explorer stands at the window for a long moment, watching light move across the valley below, shadows lengthening as afternoon turns toward evening. The Colombian government eventually seized control of Hacienda Nápoles, converting portions of the property into a theme park and safari attraction. But the mansion itself was left to decay, too damaged to restore, too symbolic to demolish. It stands now as a monument to collapse, a physical record of an empire built on
Nothing.
violence and
Just emptiness.
destroyed by the same. The
Nothing
explorer
here either.
moves through the third floor, checking each room, finding nothing but emptiness and decay. In one room, a single plastic chair sits upright in the center of the floor, placed there by someone for reasons unknowable.
It makes no sense.
In another, the walls are covered entirely in black mold, spreading like ink across concrete.
Spreading like ink
The
on
explorer
concrete.
does not
Extensive
linger.
coverage.
There is nothing
Nothing
left
here
to
but
find.
decay.
The structure has
Time to
been
move
picked
on.
clean, every object of value removed, every secret exposed. What remains is only architecture, stripped to its skeleton, and the weight of history embedded in every surface. Descending again to the ground floor, the explorer exits through the main entrance and walks across the courtyard toward the perimeter of the estate. The sun is lower now, casting long shadows across the grounds. The explorer passes the dry fountain, the broken gates, the bullet-scarred walls. At the edge of the property, where the driveway meets the jungle, the explorer stops and turns back to face the mansion. From this distance, the structure looks smaller, less imposing, just another ruin slowly being consumed by the landscape. Vines have begun to climb the exterior walls, roots digging into cracks, pulling the concrete apart incrementally, year by year. In another decade, the jungle will have fully reclaimed the estate, covering the mansion in vegetation, erasing its outline from the horizon. The explorer stands in silence, watching the light fade as the mansion disappears into shadow. There is no conclusion to draw, no lesson to extract. The structure simply exists, empty and decaying, a physical marker of a man who believed wealth and violence could build something permanent. The explorer turns and walks back down the driveway, footsteps fading into the distance, leaving the mansion alone in the growing dark.